the mightiest machines on the planet. Big, mean, invincible. Battling Mother Earth, the modern world couldn't survive without them. In this episode, we reveal the titans of tunneling, burrowing below our cities. In London, a tunnel boring machine takes on Britain's deepest ever tunnel.
Too small a hole for too big a machine.
The megaton La Rialera digs just meters under soaring skyscrapers.
You feel like Superman.
And the smaller they come, the bigger they bite.
Either the machine breaks or the rock breaks.
It's time to get behind the wheels of some dirty, great machines. London has a problem, and it stinks. Because 39 million tons of raw sewage is flooding into its rivers every year.
Putting raw sewage in a river that runs through the capital city once a week on average is not acceptable.
The Victorian sewers are at bursting point. So now, almost every time it rains, they overflow.
Things were built extremely well. The problem is they're still the same size as when they were built, and London is now very much bigger.
To solve the stench, the city needs a super sewer.
This tunnel's certainly the deepest tunnel that's been excavated in London. It's one of the deepest of its type in the world.
So this calls for a tunnel boring machine. A beast so big, it has to be assembled on location. In East London, loaded lorries make a final delivery. A consignment of body parts.
You can't just drive a TBM out of the factory and onto site. It actually arrived here in over 60 lorry load.
It's a goods received note, a delivery note for every piece. There's a paperwork trail for every piece of equipment that's delivered to the site.
All 107,000 components are now here. It certainly gives a new meaning to flat pack.
Just give me the manual out for the main technical documents.
And it comes with the mother of all instruction manuals.
All 26 of them. A lot of reading keeps us busy on a Friday evening when we've got nothing else to do.
Acting project manager Roger Mitchell checks over his £12.5 million purchase with TBM driver Brian Noon.
OK, we're going to continue to try and find where the control room is. We start to get some of the pumps over here.
That's the big one, is the main slurry pump, which transfers the muck back to surface.
This is the ultimate Tonka toy. Big toys for big boys, really. The front door, yes. Actually, I doubt if I'll be going into the face, so I don't think I can get in anymore. We have to find out where all the pieces are, first of all, and then, like a Meccano set, figure out how to put it all back together again. On gantries, segment offloader. Here is the pipe trombone. Tunnel boring machines are about the most expensive single items of kit that we use in heavy construction. This particular machine we have is one of the most sophisticated in order to allow us to excavate so deep in the ground.
Well, this could be an engineer's office.
It could be the engineer's. Oh, in
Yes.
you go.
Nicely, freshly painted.
It is, isn't it? Isn't that lovely? Yeah, it's terrific stuff.
Yeah.
In just 6 weeks, these components will transform into this. A tunnel boring machine. It's like a giant earthworm, but with big teeth. Her jaws are a gigantic cutting disc up to 19 meters across. Her chisel-like teeth can grind some of the hardest rocks on Earth. And in the belly of the beast, innards that digest vast amounts of soil and rock. She gives new meaning to multitasking by building the tunnel shell as she digs. A huge worm-like factory, the TBM is groundbreaking engineering. And building her falls on the shoulders of Chief Engineer Martin Feeney.
I've been in tunneling for 35 years. Every machine is different, every day is different. When you come to work in the morning, you very rarely know what you're gonna face that day.
TBMs are all brawn, but each and every one is a woman.
No cracks found? No, none.
And Martin's latest lady has a name inspired by Britain's hard-working queen. Busy Lizzy.
We call all our machines after girls' names. I wouldn't particularly want to work on a machine that was called Fred or Jack, but I have no problem working on a machine that's called Lizzy.
On this project, we couldn't start the TBM from the surface. We have to start by excavating a shaft 75 metres deep and then taking the TBM down the shaft in pieces, assembling it at the bottom, and then starting the excavation very slowly.
To dig the deepest tunnel, Lizzy needs one monumental hole to get underground.
God, I hate heights.
When finished, it'll be deep enough to fit 1.5 Nelson's columns. But they still got 40 feet to go, the same height as a 4-story building.
I always get a bit of a thrill to go down the shaft. It is a long way down, and when you're at the bottom, it's a great sight looking upwards to the crane a long way above your head. Thank you. It's got to the bottom, which is currently 64 metres down, and we have to go to 76 metres.
This gives Roger a chance to examine Lizzy's staple diet.
These are the sort of things that we will have to excavate through with the tunnel boring machine.
Busy Lizzy will need specialist teeth to chomp through chalk and flint. But before she can tuck in, she needs to get down the hole.
The challenge was to find a crane big enough to lift it.
It'll take a hot set of wheels and a battle against the wind.
Hold it there.
To attempt to lower Busy Lizzy into London's deepest ever shaft.
Oh, it's gone the way we want it to, not the way it wants to.
In London, the city's overloaded sewage system is flooding waste into the River Thames. So the queen of tunnelling, Busy Lizzy, is coming to the rescue.
We're talking about a tunnel big enough to put 3 double-decker buses through.
It's one of the biggest jobs around at the moment.
Busy Lizzy will stop the sewage spill by digging the first phase of a new super sewer. It has to flow deep under the city. But at 75 metres underground, Lizzy will dig the deepest tunnel ever attempted in Britain and munch a distance 14 Empire State Buildings long. Like a Savile Row suit, every TBM has a bespoke design. And Lizzy needs unique teeth to chomp through the chalk and flint under London. So Martin gives her a dental checkup.
All cutting heads are designed for the specific geology they go into. We've got 2 types of cutter on this cutting head. The first type is called a scraper, fitted with tungsten carbide. Its prime job is to excavate the chalk, the softer material. In the tunnel we're about to excavate, we will also encounter flint. And flint's a very hard material, and these type of scrapers won't deal with that. So what we use is tungsten carbide roller cutters. And the roller cutters are there to break up the heavy flints, the rock bands that we will encounter on this drive. The roller cutters are set in advance of these, so as we go through the mining phase. If there's any flint there, these roller cutters then shatter the flint so that these just scrape out the remnants of it.
But designing Lizzy's dentures didn't happen here. She was born 500 miles away in Schwanau, Germany. This is the origin of some of the world's largest and most advanced TBMs. The machines are so big, the engineers need wheels to get around them.
It's a custom-made machine, and we are perfectionists. We want to get the machine to reach the goal, to go as fast as possible, to finish the job.
Engineer Andreas Mock puts the latest model through its paces.
Time is money, of course, in our business, so we do not want to stop.
So Andreas keeps the TBM on track with made-to-measure mechanics. On the part most under pressure, the cutting head.
Each job is a little bit different, so we have to adapt the machine to the geology which we encounter.
She looks like Lizzy, but this TBM will attack hard rock in Ecuador, so she needs bespoke gnashers.
Here you can see the tools of the cutter head. We have 61 cutters. Then we have 10 buckets around the circumference. The buckets are collecting the material in the bottom. The material will slide inside the cutter head into the center and taken from the conveyor belt, which is waiting for the mud.
Andreas gives the cutting head a final spin.
When it's finished here in the workshop, we dismantle the machine. We bring the machine in bits and pieces. After that, our customer transport the machine on the job site, and then our job will start to assemble the machine again.
So next time these teeth take a roll, they'll be up against it in Ecuador. Back in London, the Super Sewer team gear up for their biggest challenge so far. Fixing Lizzy's gigantic cutting head onto her body.
It's absolutely critical that the assembly of the TBM goes smoothly.
But her cutting head must first be moved across the site, past buildings and through narrow roads.
If we have a problem, we may need to remanufacture a machine. That will cost us at least a year in the program. One of the most exciting parts of the assembly of the TBM was when we moved the cutter head. That's the bit that does all the work and really shows that we've now got a TBM ready to go.
But it weighs 120 tons, so shifting it in one piece calls for a very special set of wheels. Roger booked it, and it's called an SPMT.
Martin! What does SPMT stand for?
Self-propelled modular trailer.
Self-propelled modular trailer. Okay, there you go.
This self-propelled modular trailer carries anything from submarines to bridges.
Hey, they're ready. Down a touch.
It's a go-slow operation. If the cutting head gets damaged, it'll have to be shipped back to Germany for repair. So inch by inch, it's elevated a full 90 degrees and finally fixes into position.
We're certainly looking forward to a Christmas with Busy Lizzy in our shaft.
But as one machine is about to begin its tunneling adventure, another is coming to the end. This is Mexico City, the third largest urban area on the planet. It's home to more than 20 million people, But the population boom has pushed their transport system to the brink of collapse. They need a new metro line. This is a job for one demon digger. TBM La Rialera. She's got one tunnel left to dig, so like a fighter before the last round, needs some TLC to stay in the ring. Behind her cutting head inside her cab, her driver Fabrizio Insunza Soriano prepares to get going.
I've been working this job 2 years. It's not a normal job.
I have a lot of friends that ask me, hey, the tunnel is dangerous. No. We have a big machine, a lot of people working here.
La Rialera's digging a 4-mile stretch of new metro line in one of the world's biggest rail networks, linking 5 pre-built stations with 4 tunnels. And all this just 7 meters below heaving streets within striking distance of building foundations. She's currently sitting in the 4th station and is about to bore the last stretch of tunnel to the 5th and final station. And nothing will get in her way.
That's why we use earplugs.
I like to be here because you feel like a Superman. It's amazing.
Just like a superhero, with great power comes great responsibility. Because the skyscrapers above aren't built on solid ground. Mexico City is founded on an unstable lake bed in the bottom of a volcanic crater. The soil is so soft, the city has sunk 10 meters in the last century alone. Blasting tunnels would topple buildings. So the government needs a machine that packs a punch without any dynamite. A job that's right up La Rialera Street. With 485 scoop-like teeth to hollow out clay, her cutting head is the largest ever to dig in Mexico. She's now underground, and there's no hanging about down here because Fabrizio is at her helm.
This is a day shift, and we have a night shift, and there is a lot of competition because here in Mexico you say fregones. It means that you are the best.
There could well be a wager on which driver will dig the furthest, but one thing is for sure, La Rialera has a button that'll make drag racers green with envy.
La Rialera has more than 3,000 tons of thrust. My favorite button is the thrust jack. And sometimes you can feel how all the machine moves and has a lot of power.
Fabrizio has about 44 million horsepower at his fingertips. The same force could launch a space shuttle. La Rialera moves like a worm on steroids, using a ring of hydraulic feet called thrust jacks. As they extend, the jacks push against the tunnel wall, forcing the TBM forward as it cuts through the ground. Once the jacks are fully extended, they retract and the whole process starts again.
What we see here, this is one of the cylinders of the thrust jack. We have 28, and this is how La Rialera moves. It's amazing. You feel like maybe in a space shuttle.
That's one small step for man, or to infinity and beyond. Well, to the German TBM factory. Because it's here where engineer Andreas Mock puts the thrust into thrust jacks.
The TBM moves by means of the cylinders which are installed here on the rear of the shield. You can see here with the numbers. We apply hydraulic pressure into the cylinder. The cylinder is resting on the precast concrete segments and push the machine against the segments. And that's how the machine is moving forward. Then we retract the cylinders in order to build a new ring.
The TBM is the queen of long, straight tunneling. But she can't get around tight bends. So to cut short, bendy tunnels, there's a more nimble machine. The TBM's amigo, the ravenous Roadheader, is about to show its teeth.
Approximately 80% industrial diamonds and 20% it's very confidential.
Tunnel boring machines leave no stone unturned to transform our cities. But they're not moving muck alone. They've got a partner in grime. In Zeltweg, Austria, they take 35 tons of fire-hardened steel and 10 months of engineering to make this. The TBM's little sister, the Roadheader. She's much more compact, but punches far above her weight. Hard rock is no match for this swinging arm. Loaded with a rotating drum and packed with hardened dinosaur-like spiked teeth. Engineer Nicholas Sifferlinger has been building these beasts for 22 years.
Either the machine breaks or the rock breaks.
So he knows what gives the Roadheader a run for the TBM's money.
A Roadheader is flexible. That means you can cut curves. For short tunnels, a Roadheader can have done the job before a TBM is even built. This is the front end of the Roadheader. It cuts the material, the rock falls down, gets onto the loading bale. The loading bale puts it into the conveyor. The material moves through the machine, through this channel, moving on all the way, getting to the swivel conveyor and drops down here into the truck.
The Roadheader's about the same size as a double-decker bus. But at 135 tons, she weighs the same as not one, but 9 of them. Her cutting drum is 2.2 meters wide, but in just 1 minute could extract enough to fill more than 700,000 pint glasses. That's a big round. The Roadheader's straightforward design gives it an edge over the TBM. And she can handle the hardest rocks on Earth, all down to some secret engineering.
This beast is cutting rock, so you have to make sure that every bit is strong enough to withstand the forces.
Hidden within the factory lies a restricted area, the cutting test laboratory, the only one of its kind. And inside, some covert research is underway, led by the Q of the tunneling world, Dr. Roman Guerra.
Looks nearly new. Nowhere.
He's analyzing the results from his latest experiment, a new tooth designed to take on rock-hard granite.
Approximately 80% industrial diamonds and 20% it's very confidential.
This is tunneling at the cutting edge.
Okay, let's go. Let's start. Now we start cutting force. We found out that the lifetime from the diamond is 100 times more as the tungsten carbide.
This is the future, and competitors be afraid of it.
This rock's mincemeat. The Roadheader slashes out 3 meters daily, but that's where her talents end. Because to build the tunnel shell, she needs trucks, excavators, and lots of manpower. In Mexico City, La Rialera has been digging part of a new metro line, all just 7 meters below the streets. Driver Fabrizio keeps tabs on her progress.
This is our real position, the ring number 185, and we finish in 257.
Fabrizio brings La Rialera's cutting head to a standstill, but it's all part of the plan. 10 meters tall and stretching 100 meters, she's more than one machine. She's a complete subterranean factory. Because she builds the tunnel's skin in concrete rings as she goes, with some clever kit called the erector.
Without the erector, the machine is nothing.
8 concrete segments make up one ring. In Spanish, they're called dovelas and weigh up to 6 tons. That's more than 4 family cars.
In this position, this is the final position of the dovelas.
With miles of tunnel to build, La Rialera gets the munchies, so the team have to deliver dovelas from above, constantly feeding the concrete monster munch into her tail. The erector's huge suction pads lift the multi-ton dovelas like feathers.
This section is for a vacuum pump, is to take the dovela. It's like a suction, no?
The erector's huge suction pads lift the multi-ton dovelas like feathers. But with muscle also comes grace. The keystone segment completes the super strength ring, and another 1.5 meters of tunnel can be ticked off. Meanwhile, more than 5,000 miles away, this maverick team are taking on London's deepest ever tunnel. It's a job so audacious, only burrowing beast busy Lizzy is up to the task. When fully assembled, she'll be the same length as 14 London buses, and would beat 7 jumbo jets in a weigh-in. Her cutting head is as high as a terraced house, and it can chew enough soil to fill an Olympic swimming pool in just 7 hours. Her huge cutting head is mounted onto her body. Her vast access shaft now stretches 75 meters deep. But to get her underground, they need another specialist piece of kit.
The challenge was to find a crane big enough to lift it. There are very few cranes of this size, and we have to book this 6 months in advance.
Roger calls in Britain's biggest crawler crane. It's so massive, it needs its own smaller crane to piece it together.
Once the crane has been booked, then we're pretty much locked into the time. We cannot miss this window of lowering the TBM.
The crane is finally built, so Lizzy gets glammed up with the equivalent of a swish of lipstick.
We're very proud of these machines, and when we put them together and get them down there, we like them to not lice. I mean, it has no benefit whatsoever to the machine. That'll be gone inside an hour.
She's now ready to start her mission underground. Tomorrow is the big day. Back in Mexico City, La Rialera is fast approaching the end of her last tunnel. But there's a problem. Deep in her intestines, where the soil is removed from the cutting head, the team have a blockage.
We had a problem with the sludge pump. The people said that they found a piece of steel inside the pump. The pump was stuck, so we need to stop.
La Rialera's designed to eat clay. Bits of metal aren't on the menu. And a vital pump is gushing water. But some quick thinking from a Wellington boot-wearing genius could seal the leak.
Now the pump is fixed and it's ready.
Fabrizio fires up her thrusters for the home stretch.
We need to do 2, maybe 3 rings more and finish.
Meanwhile, in East London, the TBM team gear up to lower busy Lizzy into the ground.
Feels great. It's just started to lift it and rotate it before we lower it 74.5 metres down the shaft.
Whilst Roger entertains the top brass, Martin gets the show on the road.
Right, Jimmy, from here on in she's ours. If I don't get her in the right orientation and we get her the wrong way in the shaft, we're stuffed. All right, so we're going to turn her. Pull.
It takes some serious elbow grease to pivot Lizzy to the right angle to go down the hole.
You've still got to go around more.
That'll be about square when that gets round.
No, it needs to go around more.
Yeah, but you want it off square, don't you?
I want it off square. I want it pointing slightly over that way.
You want it more round,
She's not turning on the hook, she's only turning on the wires. It's not wherever it lies, that's it. It's not wherever it lies. Well, it's gone the right order, it'll hang up on the... No, it's gone the way we want it to, not the way it wants to.
Martin's lifted scores of TBMs during his 30-year career, but none this big or to such a depth. He's got the crane and Lizzy under control, but one risk is out of his hands.
Check what the wind is on George.
George, what's the wind, mate?
No, the wind speed's critical no matter when the TBM is lifted. The jib will be sticking 50 metres up in the air. As the machine gets lower and lower, if the jib starts to sway, you actually get an amplification of the movement at the pit bottom. So it's important the wind speed doesn't play an effect because it can impact on the way the machine goes down.
Gale force winds are sweeping Britain. London hasn't been hit yet, but crane driver George MacDonald leaves nothing to chance.
The machine itself will tell you that. It'll tell you what wind speed we're doing. It'll give you buzzers and whatnot, so you just got to stop.
How are we doing for wind up there, George?
George's sensors record gusts at the limit of safe operations.
So we're getting up there now. 11's the limit. Take her up so she'll clear the shaft.
If the wind picks up when Lizzy is in the shaft, it could be catastrophic.
We have our fingers crossed all the time that we're not going to get a sudden pickup in wind speed that can move the head of the crane and move the TBM quite a lot, and we could get some severe damage then.
If 800-ton Lizzy crashes, 12.5 million quid, 2 years of work, and a huge amount of pride would be in absolute tatters. In London, Britain's largest crawler crane lifts tunnel boring machine Busy Lizzy over the city's deepest ever hole.
It would be unnatural not to be nervous when you're lifting 800 tons. Yeah, we'll hold her down, we'll start getting her down a bit.
Martin has just centimetres to play between Lizzy and the shaft wall, as well as unpredictable gusts of wind to contend with.
Lift just to tug it round a touch. Whatever you do, don't get tangled in that rope.
Once it's over the shaft and it's started its way down, we have our fingers crossed all the time that we're not going to get a sudden pickup in wind speed that can move the head of the crane and move the TBM quite a lot, and we could get some severe damage then.
Crane operator George MacDonald checks on wind conditions.
You cannot lift over 9 metres a second, so it'd be a no-go if it's anything higher than this.
How are we doing for wind up there, George?
Okay so far. Still sitting on it.
It's good news. The wind has slowed enough to lower Lizzy.
Yeah, we're turning back now.
Almost 2 hours in, and Lizzy reaches the halfway mark. The wind's abated, but Martin spots another problem. Lizzy is about to get caught on a service tower used to run power into the pit base.
Hold her up there.
Hold it there, George.
You're clear on the service tower now, yeah? Let's have a look down. We're only going down to the deck to the service tower, and I just want to make sure she doesn't hang up on the sling. Too small a hole for too big a machine. I don't want it catching up tower on that. No, it's close. It's too close, it might hang up on the sling restraint.
With 800 tons of suspended steel, the shaft's out of bounds. But to get Lizzy on the move again, Martin has no option but to enter the danger zone.
Hey, George. Keep bringing it down, man, mate.
In Mexico City, tunnel boring machine La Realera approaches breakthrough to her very last metro station. The red carpet treatment is rolled out with health and safety tape.
maybe in this ring, finish.
It falls on Fabrizio's shift, so he'll get the bragging rights among the drivers.
Ya, ¿no? La parte de arriba.
Fabrizio turns on the thrust jacks for the very last push.
We finished. Everybody's coming.
She's dug enough soil to fill 200 Olympic swimming pools. But after 21 months, La Riolera's gigantic cutting disc spins for the very last time. Mission accomplished.
I'm gonna miss La Riolera a lot because it's a wonderful machine.
Back in London, busy Lizzy's halfway down the shaft, but she can go no further.
Epoxy service tower. There's times it clears it, and then there's other times it swings back across it.
Martin puts himself on the front line. Lizzy's close enough to touch, but it's the only way to guide her past the scaffolding.
How's she looking? She's still clear.
That one's going to be slow to your right.
Okay, George, just slow it right, mate. Nice and easy, mate. Keep it going, George.
Okay, we'll start bringing it down again.
Okay, George, bring it down again.
Moving around a lot, isn't she? Not more than I expected her to move around. It missed that last one by about half an inch.
Lizzy's clear, but only just. Now, to land her. It's taken 4 hours, but finally, Lizzy's home and dry.
I strongly suspect this will be the last machine that I see go down the shaft. From here on in, I think I'll leave it to the younger fellas. I'm getting a bit old now for 18-hour, 20-hour shifts. That lady sang. Yeah, that's the best machine landing I've ever seen. Went down exactly where we expected to.
It's a triumph. Now work can begin on London's deepest ever tunnel, all thanks to the feat of engineering that is the tunnel boring machine.
What they've done is allowed us to construct tunnels today that once upon a time were not constructible.
TBMs and Roadheaders turn engineers' tunneling dreams into reality. It's the dawn of a new age of digging deeper underground.
Tunnel boring machines open up a whole new world, really.
So watch out. Next time you walk down the street, a titan of tunneling could well be beneath your feet. Thank you, Dirty Great Machines.